Here are the top stories for today, January 6, 2022. Stricter health protocols in place as President Rodrigo Duterte will continue visiting typhoon-hit areas as the country sees another surge in COVID-19 cases. Tighter curbs are in place in the whole NCR Plus as Laguna joins the region and its other neighboring provinces under Alert Level 3 starting Friday until January 15. The deployment of police officers in isolation facilities starts to ensure that patients and arriving travelers will comply with quarantine rules. And Malacanang hopes the rift between pole vaulter E.J. Obiena and the Patafa will be threshed out soon. The Olympian remains unfazed by Patafa's move to file charges against him. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang is taking the necessary steps to enforce strict COVID-19 protocols as President Rodrigo Duterte is set to visit areas devastated by Typhoon Odette. Acting presidential spokesperson and cabinet secretary Carlo Nograles said the palace is devising measures to protect the president's health and safety without limiting his activities. Last week, Malacanang announced that visitors who wish to meet with the president have to present a negative RT-PCR test result before they are allowed inside the palace. Another antigen test will be done inside the palace as part of their second screening.
As he's known to be very active president, and he wants to be always on the ground. He always wants to be with people. So we're putting the necessary protocols to protect him while, as much as possible, not limiting what he wants to do so that he can effectively govern as our chief executive.
At least 2 police officers are now deployed in COVID-19 quarantine facilities. This after President Rodrigo Duterte orders the PNP to man the quarantine facilities to prevent individuals from skipping their mandatory isolation period. Meanwhile, PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos ordered police units to assign 2 police personnel in each hotel for every shift. He also wants to ensure that major functions such as ongoing relief and rehabilitation efforts in typhoon-hit areas would not be hampered.
Ang atin pong numero ng mga quarantine facilities ay 297. No? Iba-iba po ang classification niyan. May mandatory quarantine facility, may stringent quarantine facility at meron din for seafarers. So 297 times 2 dahil sabi ng Pangulo ay 2, that means 594 police officers. So kakayanin naman po natin ito, no? Meron po tayong tinatawag na Mobile Force Battalion na nakatalaga sa NCRPO sa mga district police district offices and mga police stations. At yung mga dati po nating kapulisan na naka-assign sa mga checkpoints ay pwede rin pong i-assign ng Philippine National Police sa mga iba't ibang DOT and Bureau of Quarantine accredited quarantine facilities. I would expect baka po bukas ay meron na tayong mga pulis na nakatalaga sa quarantine facilities.
Laguna will be placed under a higher alert level 3 starting tomorrow, January 7 until January 15 due to the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the province. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases earlier placed Bulacan, Cavite, and Rizal under Alert Level 3 due to sharp increase in the number of COVID-19 cases. Calabarzon is currently under high risk, while the National Capital Region is under the critical risk classification. The national government is currently discussing proposals to subsidize antigen self-test kits. Malacanang stressed the need to make testing accessible and affordable to the public. Acting presidential spokesperson and cabinet secretary Carlo Nograles said only FDA-approved antigen self-test kits, noting that the government could not risk inaccurate or false results. He also reiterates that RT-PCR remains the gold standard in COVID-19. The Philippines has yet to approve any at-home COVID-19 test, but such tests are now being used in countries like the United States and Singapore. All 17 mayors in the National Capital Region unanimously approved the resolution barring the unvaccinated from going outside their homes under Alert Level 3 or higher. This is clarified by the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA after one of the Metro Manila Council Secretariat staff erroneously reported that Marikina City Mayor Marcy Teodoro did not sign the resolution. MMDA General Manager Romando Artes takes full responsibility for the mistake, noting that the MMDA resolution that was unsigned by Teodoro did not come from the official platforms of the MMDA. On Monday, the MMC issued a resolution barring the unvaccinated from going outside their homes. More provinces are taking extra steps to prevent a surge in COVID-19 cases in their areas. Mobility of the unvaccinated individuals is also controlled as a precautionary measure amid the threat of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. The details from Chris Mundo.
Very strict border and entry protocols are now in place in Zambales as a precaution against the possible entry of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. In a joint advisory issued by the Provincial Government of Zambales, Provincial Health Office, and Provincial Tourism Office, travelers with full COVID-19 vaccination with or without booster shots are required to present a negative rapid antigen test result 24 hours before entry into the province from a medical clinic or hospital. On the other hand, travelers with no or partial COVID-19 vaccination from areas under Alert 2 are required to present a negative RT-PCR test result 48 hours before traveling to the province. The test shall be uploaded to the Zambales Visitor and Information and Travel Assistance System. In Iloilo, travel requirements are tightened for inbound travelers from outside of Western Visayas. Iloilo Governor Arthur Defensor Jr. issued an executive order extending the Alert Level 2 status of the province. This includes a provision requiring a negative RT-PCR test taken within 72 hours before travel for returning residents and non-residents, regardless of vaccination status. Meanwhile, those coming from Negros Island have only to present their vaccination card if they are fully vaccinated. Those who are not vaccinated or are partially inoculated may opt to present a negative RT-PCR result taken 72 hours before travel or submit to a free swab test upon arrival. In Pangasinan, unvaccinated residents as well as children are urged to stay at home as part of the preemptive measures against the threat of the Omicron variant. Unvaccinated individuals from Metro Manila are also not allowed entry to the borders of Pangasinan except for emergency and humanitarian reasons. In Central Luzon, the Regional Interagency Task Force on COVID-19 urges local government units to regulate the mobility of unvaccinated individuals. Among the recommendations of the regional IATF include the regular RT-PCR test every 2 weeks at their expense before being admitted for work on site, prohibition from domestic travels except for the procurement of essential goods and services, and prohibition from indoor and outdoor or al fresco dining in restaurants and other food establishments. Unvaccinated individuals shall likewise not be allowed from leisure or social trips to malls, hotels, event venues, sports and country clubs, and similar facilities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Still ahead, the Interior Department says LGUs affected by Typhoon Odette can now begin cash aid distribution. And there is no need to control the purchase of flu drugs, even as many scramble to get a hold of these essential medicines. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Kung customer ka, pupuntahan mo ba yung mukhang safe naman o yung certified na safe? Ang safety seal ay patunay na certified safe ang iyong business dahil nasusunod ang minimum public health standards. Meron din itong QR code para mapadali ang contact tracing. Ito ay libre lang. Pero, kailangang i-renew every 6 months or every year kung nasa tourism sector ang iyong business. Kung meron ka ng mga documents na ito, pwede ka na mag-apply para sa Safety Seal Certification. May iba-ibang office para sa iba't ibang klase ng mga negosyo. Pag na-determine nyo na ang issuing authority, simple lang ang steps para makuha ang safety seal. Pumunta sa office ng issuing authority o sa kanilang website. Kumuha ng safety seal checklist at magsagawa ng self-assessment para sa iyong business. I-submit ang checklist at abangan ang inspection schedule. Pag na-approve ang application, bibigyan kayo ng safety seal sticker. Pag hindi naman na-approve, sasabihin kung anong health standard ang hindi nasunod at bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong ayusin ito. Pag nakuha na ang safety seal, ipaskil ito sa may entrance para makita agad ng mga customer. Pwede nyo rin ipagmalaki na certified safe kayo sa inyong mga social media pages. Paalala lamang, ang isang safety seal ay para sa isang branch lang. Siguraduhin bawat branch mo ay certified safe. Siguraduhin din na nasusunod palagi ang minimum public health standards dahil baka mabawi ang iyong certification. Maaring mag-operate kahit na walang safety seal. Pero hindi ba mas mahalagang kampante ang mga customer sa loob ng iyong negosyo? Kaya kumuha na ng safety seal para ingat-angat tayong lahat.
President Rodrigo Duterte expressed his gratitude to different charitable and financial institutions as well as individuals for their help during the onslaught of Typhoon Odette. President Duterte thanked the World Bank for lending the government money as it addresses the effects of the disaster. He also recognized the contributions of his cabinet members who have assisted in one way or another to enable the people to stand again and rebuild their lives. The president orders the government agencies to fast-track the release of the subsidy to calamity victims to ease the misery of the people and for them to start rebuilding. President Duterte said the cash aid is on top of the construction materials that will be given to the typhoon survivors for them to rehabilitate their homes. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, has already released 4.85 billion pesos directly to the local government units last Monday. The Department of the Interior and Local Government announces that funds for the cash aid to families affected by the onslaught of Typhoon Odette have already been downloaded to concerned local government units. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said LGUs have 15 days to complete the payout and will have to form a grievance and appeals committee to act on all the complaints regarding aid payout. To ensure that only the qualified beneficiaries get aid, Año ordered the LGUs to post on social media or conspicuous places the list of eligible recipients prior to the distribution. Año emphasized that the intended beneficiaries are low-income families and those severely affected by the typhoon. He said the government assured eligible individual recipients will receive 1,000 pesos, while families can get a maximum of 5,000 pesos. Año said the police and military will be tapped to provide additional manpower to ensure the orderly aid distribution process. At least 6 regions were severely devastated by Typhoon Odette. Manufacturers of paracetamol and flu medicines have recommended not to put a cap on the purchase of these drugs, particularly in Metro Manila and some provinces. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez said manufacturers assured they can supply the needed drugs and the drugstores would be able to put limits on bulk purchases. Lopez said the pharmaceutical companies and drugstores were not expecting the jump in demand for paracetamol and flu medicines after New Year. Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines Vice President Janet Jacosalem also confirmed there is no shortage in supply of paracetamol and flu medication. She said pharmaceutical firms would be able to replenish the supplies in Metro Manila in 2 to 3 days. Consumers are urged not to hoard these kinds of medicines. Malacanang has stepped in the continued feud between Olympic pole vaulter E.J. Obiena and the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, or Patafa. Obiena said he is ready to face the charges slapped on him by Patafa. Marita Mawahe reports.
Malacanang is hoping the rift between pole vault star Ernest John E.J. Obiena and the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, or Patafa, would eventually be resolved. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles expressed the palace's support for Obiena and all other athletes, even as the Patafa announced its decision to drop him from the national team and file an estafa case against him. Nograles said the palace will await further development on the issue, as the ball is now with the Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC, and the Commission on Audit. The estafa case involved Obiena's alleged misuse of about 360,000 pesos meant for the salary of his coach, Vitaly Petrov, which Patafa claimed was not turned over. On Tuesday, Patafa recommended that Obiena be expelled from the national team immediately. For his part, Obiena said he and Coach Petrov are ready to face the charges slapped by Patafa on them. In a statement, Obiena said he hopes to have a fair day in court and end what he called a witch hunt against him. Obiena said he has already informed his foreign coach of the Patafa's plans to file charges against him in the World Athletics Federation. He also lashed out at Patafa's decision to declare his mentor, Jim Laferte, as persona non grata. Obiena meanwhile refuted accusations of him ducking away from mediation. He thanked the Philippine Olympic Committee, or POC, for assuring that he remains a part of the national team. Meanwhile, the PSC has laid down some requests to Patafa and Obiena to resolve their quarrel. The PSC board called on Obiena to complete the liquidation of his payment to Petrov. The PSC also called on Patafa to reconsider their declaration of dropping EJ from their roles. It also urged the POC to drop its call to declare Patafa Chief Popoy Wico persona non grata on the premise of promoting peace in elite sports. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
11 presidential aspirants have been included in the list for the May 2022 polls. The aspirants that made it to the recent list are Ernie Abella, Gerald Arcega, Leody de Guzman, Isko Moreno Domagoso, Norberto Gonzales, Ping Lacson, Faisal Mangudato, Bongbong Marcos, Jose Montemayor Jr., Manny Pacquiao, and Lenny Robredo. Meanwhile, there are 9 aspirants for the vice presidential post. They are Lito Atienza, Walden Bello, Rizalito David, Sara Duterte, Manny Lopez, Dr. Willie Ong, Kiko Pangilinan, Carlos Serapio, and Vicente Soto III. The tentative numbers of senatorial aspirants is now at 64. The poll body has yet to come up with a final list of national and local candidates, including party list groups, since there are still pending cases as to their respective candidacies. Up next, a town in Ilocos Norte is boosting tobacco farming, and our very own 20 peso coin gets international recognition. We tell you why later. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns. In continued efforts to rebuild Marawi City, 50 women from the war-torn city will be the first of many to start over with newly learned skills and livelihood with the help of the local government. More on this from Claire Gighe.
Marawi City is now more empowered to gain access to business and livelihood opportunities. This as the first batch of 50 women from the landfill area in Papandayan village in the city completed a training on dressmaking and bread and pastry production. The training was organized by Parliament member Maysara Dandamun Latif under her Siyap Kumanga Bae, a training for sustainable livelihood development program. The said program is being implemented under the Transitional Development Impact Fund through the partnership of the Bangsamoro region and Lanao del Sur province. It aims to help women achieve financial independence and security by enhancing their skills and providing them resources to start livelihood projects. Under the program, beneficiaries are provided with allowance for their travel and purchase of personal protective gear. They are also provided with an internet usage allowance for their online classes. Beneficiaries will also be given starter toolkits such as sewing machine for dressmaking and oven and baking equipment for bread and pastry production when they graduate. Those who will pass the assessment will receive 15,000 pesos as their startup capital. MP Latif assures the graduates that the program will continue to provide them with the necessary skills to improve their lives.
I know that with your effort and the potentials that you have, you will make it. Keep reaching your goals and your dreams, and never forget that we are always here with you as your sisters to support you along the way.
Mala bali ami ako akan saya kasudin sa training akan nadid naman lang akong ko bubu sa tin manakapamanay. Kakyugo pa kanaya ko pamilya akan akapakatabang akong ko di mi kapangayagan balaboron sa akan amadakal wata. Nakugo pa na akong semester akan sa pinalamatan ko si Ma'am MP Maysara sa gihang kaya programa niyan.
For PNA Newsroom, I'm Claire Gighe of the Philippine Information Agency Lanao del Sur.
Farmers in Pidig, Ilocos Norte are starting to plant tobacco this year as an alternative crop. Interested farmers are backed by the Universal Leaf Philippines Incorporated, the biggest tobacco growing and processing company in the country, and in close coordination with the National Tobacco Administration and the local government. To date, Pidig has more than 200 hectares of consolidated farm lot dedicated to tobacco farming. The tobacco farm will entitle the municipality to additional revenue of about 200 million pesos annually. Mayor Eduardo Guillen said each farmer can earn 70 to 80,000 pesos per hectare from growing tobacco alone. Aside from consolidating tobacco farming, another 100 hectares in Barangay Calambeg are being explored to be developed to house the first batch of upgraded cows for Wagyu meat production. Two former New People's Army rebels and the mother of another who has passed away are among the latest who have received government aid as they return to the fold of the law. The National Housing Authority awarded 450,000 worth of housing assistance to the three beneficiaries under the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or ECLIP. The 5th Infantry Division said that alias Brian and alias Alex from the province of Kalinga and the mother of the late alias Gabby from Cagayan received the government's aid to help with the construction of their house. During the turnover ceremony at the 5ID headquarters in Gamu, Isabela, the former rebels thanked the NHA and the 50th Infantry Battalion for allowing them to have a comfortable house for their family. The housing assistance is among the components of the support program that aims to help former rebels who return to the government side. Meanwhile, an NPA squad leader operating in southern Panay province surrendered to the police on Tuesday. The rebel leader, identified as alias Tatang, 30 years old and a resident of Barangay Bikil, Tubungan, Iloilo, cited hardships living in the mountains as part of his reason for surrendering. He also claimed to have been traumatized during a military operation in Miagao, Iloilo last December 1. Alias Tatang was a former team leader of the Mount Napula Command of the NPA Southern Front Committee. Tatang said he was enticed to join NPA after he was promised a better life. The new Philippine 20 peso coin is one step to gaining recognition as one of the world's best coins. The new generation currency coin was declared a finalist in the Best New Coins category of the annual Excellence in Currency 2022 Awards. The 20 peso coin is a two-colored coin featuring former President Manuel L. Quezon on one side and the Malacañang Palace BSP logo and NILAD plant on the other. The International Association of Currency Affairs chose the finalists from 39 nominated projects from various central banks and banknote stakeholders. The winners of this and other categories will be announced on the 22nd of February 2022. In last year's Excellence in Currency Awards, the cash servicing initiative of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was awarded as Best Currency Initiative implemented in response to the COVID-19 pandemic among central banks. Meanwhile, the new generation currency coin series and Coin Ed campaign were finalists in the 2019 awards. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Stricter health protocols in place as President Rodrigo Duterte will continue visiting typhoon-hit areas as the country sees another surge in COVID-19 cases. Tighter curbs are in place in the whole NCR Plus as Laguna joins the region and its other neighboring provinces under Alert Level 3 starting Friday until January 15. The deployment of police officers in isolation facilities starts to ensure that patients and arriving travelers will comply with quarantine rules. And Malacañang hopes the rift between pole vaulter EJ Obiena and the Patafa will be threshed out soon. The Olympian remains unfazed by Patafa's move to file charges against him. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day.